Hi, everyone, all our valued registered participants, as well as two speakers from abroad who are joining us to actually talk about studying abroad. As you know, the International University Hub has been promoting overseas education, quality education, uh, with specific, transparent, and seamless solutions for students who are planning to go abroad for overseas education. As we all know that post-COVID, with the outbreak of COVID and then escalating pandemic, both students as well as parents have had lots of apprehensions about ongoing studies as well as what's the future uh, terms of some ideas as to how students and parents can take forward their own aspirations in terms of overseas education. To talk about in terms of what are the challenges and in terms of what the parents can do in the meantime, we have two learned experts. We have Prerna Guha, Country Manager for India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, Regional Consultant, Malaysia and Indonesia of University of Greenwich. And we have Christopher Nagel, Director Homes Education Group, to also joining the webinar. What we will do is I'll ask some questions from the two experts, and I really encourage all those who are registered, be it parents or students, to really shoot their own questions to clarify. And I know it's COVID is still evolving. It's getting, we have talking about third wave, second waves and all that. But I'm sure let's see how we can forward. So I like to ask how universities are coping in the current pandemic situation. And, has it been sort of at a standstill right throughout, or universities have been functioning? Guha, maybe you can start.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kasim, for organizing this session. I would first like to thank you and everyone who is attending the session today or who are actually viewing us. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think this is a great opportunity to understand how things are operating back in UK and other countries as well regarding the plans for overseas studies. It's very clear that since the month of March, there has been a lot of stagnancy on the ideas or the plans which was there clearly for September intake, and due to pandemic global impact has been coming. But at the same point of time, as a university, we care about our students. We are there standing beside our students, and we are taking all the measures which are a necessity, which are really required to ensure the students are safe. So I would say that everything is on. It's just that we have more gone into blended learning pattern than an old school pattern, and we are into a mode of online teaching right now for students who are on campus to ensure that there is no halt in their education. So the students who are currently on campus, they are doing online studies. However, they are coming back on campus very soon by September, hopefully. September, October, we are expecting them to come back on the campus. And for the upcoming intake, that's a September intake, that intake is also on. We are expecting good number of students coming in for this intake act as well. So we are really excited to welcome all our students on board. And we are ensuring that we are taking all the measures which are declared as the guidelines provided by UKVI for health and security purpose. We are maintaining social distancing for all the classes. Sanitizer, face mask, they all are mandatory on the campus for us. I'm sure with other universities as well. I think Christopher can throw some light how Holmes is going for it.
Thank you, Brenna. That sounds great and very positive. What's happening at University of Greenwich? So good morning, everyone from London, and good afternoon to all of you in Sri Lanka. Thank you so much for coming and attending and listening to us this afternoon. And yeah, I'm speaking to you from the entire time throughout the pandemic situation. And I've seen from my apartment in London everything change over the course of the past 5 or 6 months. I live just near Oxford Street in London, which is a very famous area, and there were a few weeks and months when it was completely deserted, and it was very quiet outside my window. It's not quiet anymore. London is basically back to normal now. I was lucky enough, I've gone on holiday to France the past few weekends. So the airports are open, the planes are flying, and the mood and the atmosphere in the UK is very, very positive. And people, are getting back to their normal lives. We work with 4 universities in the UK, but our office is located in central London. And as of the beginning of this month, we had everyone now is back in the office. So it really is, we're getting back to life as normal here. And I think that it's very important to consider, first of all, before we even talk about different universities' attitudes, it's important to talk about the country's attitude. And I think that we're a global education company, so we work in many different countries. And I definitely believe that the UK as a country and the UK government has been the most positive in terms of saying that they want international students to come in September, have an on-campus experience. They like international students. They've said that they've letters to international students saying, we want you to come for September. We will make it happen. We will open the visa centers. If something is delayed, it will be fine. Don't worry. If you're late, that won't count against you. We will be flexible. We want you to come and have a good experience. And I think that we've tried to be in line and take advantage of the positivity of the UK government. And in planning with the 4 universities we work with in the UK, which are the University of Worcester, St Mary's University in London, the University for the Creative Arts, and the University of Bedfordshire, we've been involved in the planning of how we're going to have the new intake for many months now. And most of our universities didn't really ever close. There was always, some space that was open in the library or something for students to be able to go in and do their work. And, students went, and the majority of their learning started to take place online. But as we come back into the September intake, we will, as Prerna said, be moving to a blended learning model. And that really does one very important thing, which is that classes previously that were large lecture classes of maybe around 50 people or more, those will be online. And that does 2 things really. It means that there's much more space in the university. So lecture halls can be used for classes of less than 50. So it will be very easy to do social distancing lecture halls with classes of 30 people or less. But the other thing is that for many years now, leading education institutions have been moving towards a blended learning model, because having your lectures online is actually a better way of learning, because you can go back and look at them. You can view them before you have the tutorials. You can view them again afterwards. It's actually a much better system for learning. And it's something that Holmes, we were already moving towards before the pandemic anyway. So it's actually an advantageous thing for your learning experience. In September, at all of our universities, we are having an on-campus, face-to-face teaching experience supported by blended learning for lectures, so that the tutorials that will happen face-to-face will be even more informative and a better learning experience. And I think this is what's happening at most places. They're moving to this blended learning model, taking advantage of the extra learning support that comes from lectures being online and the extra space that that creates within the university. And we've always been, you know, very confident from the beginning that face-to-face teaching will happen in September. International education, I was an international student. I came from Australia and I studied at I studied in China, I studied in Italy and France, and international education is all about the experience. And you cannot have an international education experience being 100% online. Online learning can support on-campus international experience in the country. We're facilitating international education as an experience. So looking at making sure that outside of the classroom, people are learning and growing as people, as human beings, just as much as they're learning in the classroom. And that's something that we want to make sure continues even after the pandemic. And that means that we're very committed to students having an on-campus, in-person experience. And I think that it's very exciting what's going to be happening in September for this upcoming. Some of our students, so we know it's going ahead. Some of our students have been issued visas. They've got flights. I think our first students are coming from India on the British Airways flights, which are starting from the 17th of August. So I'm excited for the first post-pandemic international students to be touching down in London as early as the 17th of August. And I think that once we start to see students coming, arriving, enrolling, having a good time again in a safe way, everyone's belief and excitement about international travel and international education will return. So I hope some of you are also looking forward to having that experience and going abroad in September.
Thank you very much for Prerna and Chris for that fairly emphatic announcements coming from both of you. Just want to know is, we have had various false starts in terms of reopening. How sure are you that the pandemic is sort of being controlled or being managed? That's one question. And whether people should, particularly students who are coming for the first time, should treat this whole COVID situation as a new normal. Is that how we all are approaching, saying that you have to live with it with extra caution, of course? And what kind of mindset should they have or prepare themselves for before coming over to UK or anywhere else in the world in terms of overseas education? Prerna, you can like to.
Right. So first and foremost thing, which I've been speaking about this to a lot of students, and we have been doing a bit of pre-departure briefings and student offer holder meet, and quite often a question has been asked to me that what if I get affected by COVID when I land in UK? I'm in London today and I'm affected to COVID. Now what will happen to me? So first and foremost, guys, you need to be aware that you are covered under your immigration health insurance part if you are under COVID. All right, so if you're affected with COVID, it is taken care. You have already paid for it, and it's taken care of under the immigration health insurance, which you pay while your visa filing. So you will be taken care of that. It will not be an additional expense or anything about it. As far as talking about how do you think that the COVID will be impacting your situation when you are there in how you should be reacted or how you should be prepared. I think this is something which is being a practice everywhere. I'm from India, and that's what the practice in India is also being spread out, and I'm sure in London also the same thing is happening in UK or other part of the world. It's important thing is being safe. Now safety is something which is in your hand and your decision. It is new normal, and we have to live with it for the time being till the time the medicines or the vaccinations are out. I'm sure everyone is aware that Oxford University has, declared on the vaccination, and a couple of other countries are working with them on that. And hopefully things get better and positive by the month of November or by end of this year. Hopefully, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed on that. But this is something which is unpredictable. So students has to ensure that they are well sanitizing themselves. They are always wearing masks. Please maintain your social distancing and do everything to ensure your health and safety. You are keeping those in measures. If Christopher would like to add on something on that.
No, thank you, Prerna. Some great points there. I think, yeah, it's very important to emphasize to students that they're covered under the NHS while they're students in the UK. And the National Health Service of the UK, the NHS, is one of the greatest health systems anywhere in the world. So if you're going to get COVID, then probably one of the safest places that you could get it, you'll get some of the best care in the UK. And from that perspective, I think you really have nothing to worry about. You're totally covered by an excellent healthcare system. In terms of new normal or how people should approach the virus from a mindset, I think that what we're seeing around the world is that as we go forward, governments now are all much, much better prepared than they were previously. So I don't think that we're ever going to see chaotic reactions to these problems again, the way that we did back in March when it was something completely new. Now it's not something new. I wouldn't call it new normal, but I think it's not a new thing anymore. Everyone is experienced in how to control it, how to take precautions. I think that in the UK now, there's a highly developed contact tracing system. We'll see that whenever there is a sort of localized area where there are a few more cases because of the increased testing, there's now very, very broad-ranging testing in the UK. So as soon as there's a small pocket where there are some virus cases, they increase the restrictions slightly, such as, restaurants not being open for dinner or people not being able to meet other people in their home. And it's a localized measure of control. So I don't think that we'll ever see mass national lockdowns. The Prime Minister has said that they'll go for a targeted approach of managing situations as they come up in different geographical areas of the country. So it's going to be a much more organized and targeted approach to controlling the virus, which will be much better for everybody because you'll have a much better, warning system. You'll understand what's going on. It will be very practical. If the virus is spreading because a few people were meeting up in their homes a lot, that just doesn't happen anymore. And it will be a much more focused way of solving the problem. And it will be much more comfortable for everybody else. It won't be these sort of large, broad movements that happened earlier on in the year. And I think also that what scientists are saying is that we will never see again such steep rise or spikes in virus cases while the population is educated in terms of social distancing, not shaking hands when people meet, not hugging. That means that the virus can really only ever spread at a manageable rate. People in the UK are well educated now. What is the new normal is that when I meet new people, we don't shake hands, we don't hug. Those sort of unnecessary things previously don't happen anymore. On public transport, people wear masks. And this means that we're never going to see an uncontrollable spread again. So it's only ever going to be a manageable situation. And now the government and the country are in very, very good position to manage those problems. So it's a completely different situation to what we had back in March. It's a problem that we know and understand, and it's a problem that we have the solutions for now. And as time goes on, we get better and better at managing the virus, and those solutions are only going to become more and more apt until we get the vaccine. So I think that the most important thing to think about is that we're going in the right direction. Every day, the virus is becoming more understandable to us, and then every day it's becoming more manageable as a problem.
Okay, thank you. There was a question anyway already. I also had a follow-up question. For an international student who is landing in UK, what's the duration of quarantine and where does the quarantine happen? Could they check in first and then what can you explain a bit on that procedure?
So when you're landing in UK, it's a 14 days quarantine, which they have to go through. And it can be anywhere, wherever they plan to stay. So you can take a university accommodation and do the quarantine there. You can quarantine there. Or else you can take your private accommodation and quarantine there. You can also quarantine in a hotel. You know, it's your choice. The difference here is that in compared to previous time, that this time you have to be sure before flying that where you're planning to stay. This is mandatory to declare that where you're planning to stay in UK. And 48 hours before flying, you will have to provide an evidence of where you're planning to stay. So irrespective to a period, that if you're saying that you have made in private accommodation, where your agreement starts from X date, but you are flying on a Y date prior to the agreement start, and you choose to stay in a hotel accommodation, you can do that, but you need to provide evidence of the same, that you are staying on that accommodation. But yes, 14 days quarantine period, and it can be the university accommodation, private, family, anywhere.
Okay. Have you all gone through, I mean, I know you are looking forward to welcome some students from next week, but prior to that, have you welcomed any students and what has been the experience?
Sorry, Prerna, I would just add a few more thoughts on the self-isolation period. And I do think it's important to call it as rather than a quarantine, a self-isolation period. I do think that this is something that sometimes is meant to seem bigger than it really is. I'm sure that the vast majority of students, when you get on the plane or 2 days before you're going to the UK from your home country, you're going to the UK for a few years, I'm sure you have some idea of where you're going to stay for the first 2 weeks. All it is that 2 days before you fly, you have to put down the address of where you're going to stay for the first 2 weeks. And in my opinion, if you don't know where you're staying for the first 2 weeks when you're going to fly abroad, then there's some other problem. Really, it is really a period of self-isolation. You arrive, 2 days before, you fill out a form where you put down the address where you're going to be staying. And then when you arrive, you make your way to that address and you try and stay and self-isolate as much as possible, but you're allowed to go out to buy food and for essential things, for food, for exercise. And it's really not a quarantine in the strict sense. It's a period of self-isolation in the accommodation that you've chosen to live in. So I think that it's really not an obstacle. It's something that is almost it's a precautionary measure. It's not something that's going to change your travel much. It just means that you stay inside for the first 2 weeks when you arrive. And I really think that people should view it like that. And there's no need to be apprehensive. Just do it for the first 2 weeks. Do you have the address? Put it on the form. And then when you arrive, go there and only go out to buy food for 2 weeks. It's really quite simple in that sense. Yeah, sorry to interrupt there.
Right. Thank you. My question was whether you have what have been the feedback from any students who had come early and gone through the experience. Any cases that you know?
I don't think so. We have any students till now, because after the COVID hit, the international flights, everything was stopped. And the intake actually, so like with Greenwich, we only had a January and a September intake. Okay, so this was our first intake coming up. I'm not sure about homes if you have experienced any middle intake.
Okay, fine. Thank you. There's this fear, I mean, given the current situation among parents and students, that even if they sign up, pay, and they may not get a chance to come to UK and say, I know you did mention that you all are welcoming students. That assurance is given, right? From September, you are welcoming students post-quarantine. And also, so there is no one should have this apprehension that the first semester will be online. Is that, can I get that confirmed?
Yes, I would say yes. We're 100% committed to having on-campus face-to-face teaching for this upcoming intake.
Okay, excellent.
I would just like to add on here that we have to be very conscious about the circumstances also, right? The reason why we are emphasizing so much on blended learning is because we don't want the education to stop. So irrespective of the position, yes, we are completely open for our on-campus education. And as Christopher rightly said, that any classroom which is more than 50 students will be going an online class, but any smaller group of classes, they will be face-to-face by maintaining social distancing. So that is definitely there. And we are ensuring that the measures which is required for this particular current COVID situation is taken care of. So students do not have to worry on that. They will definitely, so the confusion was basically about the first semester is because we were not sure the flights will be flying or not. Like, for example, I'll tell you right now, Nepal VFS is still not open. Students from Nepal can still not file the visa. We don't know how will things go on with Nepal. So if when we talk about Sri Lanka, has the VFS in Sri Lanka open now? What do you say? No, right? In India, VFS is open, so students have started filing the visa. So our concern is we are very open with the situation and we are flexible with the current situation. So what we are trying to tell here by blended learning is, let's say, for example, Nepal, a student has paid, he's really keen on coming in, and but ensuring that he is not going to, by ensuring that he's not going to, he doesn't want to miss the intake. He definitely wants to study. In that situation, if the flights are starting maybe instead of September, the flights are starting in December, why will the student miss the classes? He will continue the online classes, but the moment he gets a chance to fly in, he should fly in. That option is there only for the situational based countries and by the choice of student. It is just to keep in mind that the education should not stop. At the same point of time, as we are very clear, the classes are online, classes are on campus, and we are open to welcome everyone depending on country situation here.
Okay.
And I think what's important to add to that is, as educational providers, we're adopting this flexible approach.
Yes.
And this flexible approach is also by the government and by UKVI, where they've said that students who are disadvantaged can't end up coming a bit later, they start their classes online or whatever. The government has said that they support this flexible approach and that this it will not count against the student. The education will keep going. As long as it does, then students will be entitled to all of the benefits and supports that come with being an international student in the UK. So it's not just universities that have adopted this flexible approach. It is supported by the government as well.
Okay,
absolutely right. Just to extend on that, the UKVI has confirmed the same thing. What he's mentioned is before April 2021, if the student is able to come on the campus, he will get all the benefits which an international student is supposed to gain up.
Thank you for clarifying that. Just a question about, but one of the key attractions for UK is that there is this post-study work visa. Assuming there is online person perhaps gets extended for 6 months because of the situation of the country, will there be any disadvantages in getting the post-study work visa? I mean, there are qualifying with certain qualifications to get that, and just because you're online, does it sort of disqualifies you to some extent?
Chris, would you like to start, Christopher?
Sure. I think it's exactly what Prerna just mentioned before, which is that as long as the student is able to arrive by April in 2021, they'll be entitled to the post-study work visa. So the post-study work visa is for students who graduate with a UK degree in the summer of 2021. So as long as you're arriving before summer, by April, then you'll be entitled to the post-study work visa. And the government has been explicit about that. If you are starting and doing your course online, but you manage to arrive in the UK by April, you will still be entitled to the post-study work visa. And yeah, I would also take the opportunity to point out that the UK has been the most positive and clear about this point, whereas in, for example, in Australia, it's still not exactly clear and confirmed whether or not online study will count towards the 2 years that you need for the post-study work visa in Australia. It's not been confirmed and set in stone for Australia, but the UK has been extremely clear. As long as you arrive by April, you're entitled to the post-study work visa.
Okay, fine. I think there was a lot of mention about blended learning. Going forward, I think, Chris, you said that you were anyway getting ready for it much even before the pandemic. Going forward, what kind of a percentage would the blended learning take, and how should students prepare in the event there is more reliance on blended learning?
I think for blended learning, of course, it always depends very much on the subject. So, for example, we run an international college at the University for the Creative Arts, and students who are doing creative subjects like fashion design and these sort of things, they will need the vast majority of their learning will really need to be face-to-face and hands-on. You know, if it's a creative process. However, other models of learning where maybe you would have maybe 3 hours in a classroom. The first hour becomes an online lecture, and then you have the small class for the 2 hours. And I really mean say when I think that blended learning can actually enhance the learning experience, because previously, for example, maybe you would have 3 class in a class size of 40 students, right? Whereas going forward, you'll have 1 hour online, which you can study in your own time and watch before the class and again after the class. So you can engage with that hour independently as you wish. And then your in-person class will be in a much smaller class size. So instead of 3 hours with 50 people, you have 2 hours with 20 people. And it will actually be a better, more individualized learning experience. So I think that it's important to consider how much time is online and how much time is in person, but also the quality of the in-person teaching is going to increase because the class size is going to be smaller. And all of this is a really great opportunity to update our delivery models so that they're more modernized in terms of giving individual support to students, especially to international students. I think it's a great principle of learning that the class size is so important, and a smaller class size always means more individualized attention and better learning outcomes for students. And actually, I feel that under this model, students can learn more because they've got a more adaptable model, which is going to suit their learning style better. They have the material that they can access anytime online. So if you're someone who likes to study late at night or early in the morning, you can watch the lecture whenever you like. And then when you're in the class, you're going to have much more individualized attention. You'll be noticed by whoever the lecturer or the teacher is. It will be a better experience because it will be more sophisticated and flexible in those ways.
I would just like to add on with what Christopher said here is it's important to understand the student what is the teaching method in the UK, right? So when we say teaching is a combination. It is a combination of lectures, tutorial, lab work, seminar, and presentation. So when we are saying blended learning, your tutorials, which is anyways 101, is remaining as it is in a smaller group or group of students. Your lab work, again, lab works are always in a smaller group of students. It remains as it is. Then talk about presentation, seminars, again, smaller group remains as it is. Lectures, well, it depends on the kind of classrooms which he mentioned again, most of the classes which is within a smaller group remains face to face. It's only the larger number of students classes are online. That too doesn't happen every day. So generally a lecture of around 100, 200 or 300 students will quite often happen maybe 3 classes a week or so, but not more than that. So the actual impact on studies are not that massive, which students are really skeptical of. Another thing to keep in mind, that as Christopher said, that we have been adapting this quite, before even this started. So what we have been doing is a lot of our teaching has been recorded. All right. So that is to facilitate students that if they are missing any class. So this is an advantage which they get with most of the classes now, that if they are by any chance miss any classes, all the classes are recorded now. They can simply go to the library, pick up the recorded version and have a look into it. So that makes a better teaching when we say a blended learning here.
Thank you very much for great insights from both. I'd like to move on to some questions earlier on which were shared. So these are, one is about, can I fly with my son when he enrolls for the university? Can anyone answer that?
Yes, the parents of this is also another quite frequently asked question, that parents, especially undergraduate student parents, would like to fly with their children. They can, but they have to be quarantined if they land in the UK. All right. So with their children, they quarantine for 14 days. Only after that, they are going out and seeing the campus and other thing. And then they come back to their home country. I'm sure they have to quarantine again. So it is advisable that it's not required. Things are safe, but if you still want to, you can free to do that.
Okay. And there was an earlier question about where do you quarantine? You did say either a hotel or at the university, but can they do it at a relative's place as well? Is that approved in UK?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no restriction on where you have to self-isolate. It's simply just that you need to know where you are going. It's just an address.
Okay. Also, there is relating to, if we opt for not to fly and still want to enroll for the first semester to study online, do we have do students and parents have the choice?
For us, I would say no, it is not. Reason behind, if the flights are operating in your country and you're choosing not to fly, you will not be enrolled at the university. At least I don't think so. That's not something which will be permitted everywhere. I'm not sure if Christopher would like to differ on that, but that's what my opinion is.
Yeah,
no,
so that means
sorry.
Yeah, if there is no decision to fly for whatever domestic reasons, you cannot enroll online. Is that what you're saying? Study enroll.
If the country is operating flights, okay, visas are filing, everything is normal, but you choose. So if you're saying it's by my choice, I would not like to fly and start my classes online, then it's a no. Like, for example, as I just mentioned, so today if Nepal VFS doesn't even start, or Sri Lanka VFS doesn't even start, so obviously the student doesn't have a choice, right? But in India, if anyone is coming up to us saying that, okay, I want to do it sitting at my home country, whereas the flights are operating, everything is started, so that's not allowed. That's the reason we are saying that if it's depending on the situation, but if it's a choice, even if everything is operating, then it's not allowed. I think Christopher was throwing some light on that. I'm sorry, you were interrupted.
No. Exactly the same answer from me, which is that we're very encouraging people to come for the September intake, which is happening on campus. If for some reason you're not able to come, then we'll have a solution for you to follow the classes online. But we want people, if they can come, to come.
Okay, I'll take one more question. For master's students who are living in UK after the master's, they have 6 months for internship. Within this pandemic, will they extend visa to find jobs?
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused with the question. So you're saying the students who are already doing masters in UK and they are in their internship year?
Yes.
Right? So you're asking within the pandemic, will the visa will extend or not, right?
That's
Christopher,
right.
would
Yeah.
you like to throw some light on that? I think he would be a better person to answer it.
No, so I think in that case, if the visa, if it's a master's with an internship and the visa is ending in the summer of 2021, the student will be entitled to the post-study work visa anyway, because they'll be graduating in the summer of 2021. So they will have an extension on, they will get a post-study work visa of 2 years. Things need to be about from that sense. If you have a visa that's expiring at the moment, then yes, the government said that there are automatic extensions. If it's expiring at the moment, you're not able to travel for reasons due to the pandemic, then yeah, you haven't overstayed your visa. You had until the end of July. Now you have very, very flexible in terms of anyone's visa that expires during this time. There's big flexibility in terms of you being able to extend it. You're able to extend almost every type of visa onshore at the moment. We have students even who were on student visitor visas who have been able to complete, whereas previously they would have had to return home. So there's complete flexibility around any visa that's expiring at the moment. As for the question, if the visa is not expiring until the summer next year, then I think you'll get your post-study work visas. So there's nothing to worry about.
Okay. I'll also take one more question. Will the universities extend their intakes due to COVID? I don't know whether it was extending the deadline or whether extend the number of intakes given due to the COVID situation. First, can you shed light on the deadlines?
So all the universities are being very flexible right now because everyone is aware with the current situation. In India, for an example, a lot of final year students' exams have been completely postponed to September end. So technically, it's difficult for them to fly on time for an intake. However, looking at the situation with us, yes, not only with us, I think a lot of other UK universities have done the same thing, that they have been a bit more flexible in the last enrollment date with the current situation. Like for us, we have started, though we are starting our orientation on 14th of September, but the classes are not starting before 5th of October, and we are giving certain extended time period for the last enrollment date further, which can be further reviewed depending on the situation. So universities are quite flexible right now with the deadlines and all. I think this is the same with the intake as well. Couple of universities, I would say, I'll talk on behalf of a lot of other, Russell Group University, for example, who do not technically run a January intake, are running a January intake because the September was not quite successful. So they actually choose to run a lot of courses in January. With us, we have expanded the number of courses we actually run in a January intake. We have more undergraduate courses in January right now to welcome students. And that's a kind of flexibility which the universities are taking up with the current situation with everyone.
Okay. You answered one of the questions also. I think you sort of sense there will be a question on January intakes.
Yeah,
Good.
they're quite often asked.
Yes. Just a little still beyond the students, I think we also have Prageet in the discussion, but he's not visible. But this question maybe you also can answer. Is there part-time work available for overseas students in the current COVID situation? How is the general business managing in this current COVID and rising out it? Is there any
Right.
work?
So I will say that I have a very interesting point on this. Before that, I think Christopher can start out talking about the part-time jobs with the current situation, and then I'll give the twist on that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've watched sort of before my eyes, living where I live and then having our office in central London, where I watched everything sort of wind down and close. And then we started the office. There were just a few things open, like, Starbucks, one sandwich shop. Now all the streets are full, and I would say cafes and bars are opening back up. People are going back into offices. People are going back to work, especially from August. Basically, everyone is going back to work now, which means that people are out and about in the cities. So part-time work is available again in hospitality and things like restaurants and bars. And just to extend a little bit on the work opportunities available to students going forward, obviously the pandemic has not been good for the economy, although we're now in a recovery phase. So although everything dipped a lot, there is actually will be opportunities for students to find jobs. As businesses open back up, they will need to hire people. So there really will be working opportunities for students. And in the longer term as well, I think that something that people should think more about the impact of Brexit on job opportunities for students. And if we look at the system that the UK is sort of trying to emulate, which is Australia, the Australian economy runs on international students doing part-time work, working in restaurants, doing those kind of jobs while they're studying, because there is not a huge surplus of labor in the country. And as the UK leaves the EU and people from Europe cannot come and work freely, there's going to be a shortage of labor, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for international students. All of these kind of jobs currently that are done very much by EU citizens, by people who are coming and working from across Europe, they won't be able to come and work anymore. So that's going to present a huge opportunity for students to fill that gap that is left by the European labor force from January 1, when European citizens can't come and apply for those jobs. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for international students in the UK regarding work.
Absolutely. So when we talk about part-time jobs, Christopher has perfectly highlighted the areas where generally students do part-time job when they're there, right? So these are the areas: cafes, bars, restaurants, office back-end jobs. They are generally the part-time job. But at the same point of time, as everyone is aware, with COVID, every economy has been impacted. So a very frequently asked question, which I think the students should keep in mind, that even with this COVID, which are the industries which are not impacted? So that is something which the students focus on, should be more. What I personally think, jobs in field like health will not be going down. You will have a lot of jobs in health sectors right now. You will have pharmaceutical sectors right now will have a huge team of jobs. Food safety, quality, food related courses, if you are doing exceptionally good amount of jobs, because they are not stagnant. They are literally, even with the worst COVID situation, when you were in a complete strict lockdown, they were all on streets constantly. So this is something with the impact on the global economy also will not stop anywhere. Further, when we talk about in the business sector as well, obviously IT is there, it is still online. Digital marketing, business side digital marketing, exceptionally good boom right now. Every single thing has gone digital. There was a time period when e-commerce digital marketing was not that high, but right now it has gone to a different level. So these are some areas which I personally think the students should get more emphasized into while they are choosing their courses, to understand that, okay, this is something, even with the global economic impact, will not kind of impact my job opportunities. Either we talk about part-time or full-time after we graduate. Of course, it depends on individuals as well, but this is something which is not impacting their career at all.
I think that's a really fantastic point that you make, Prerna, and onto that, which is that that's true that there are these particular sectors, like obviously healthcare, that are going through a huge boom right now. Healthcare, pharmaceuticals, points out not just sectors like business, but specific sectors like digital marketing, these kind of things. There are particular sectors that are doing extremely well. Another one we've seen the huge surge in popularity is like video games, and our games design,
Animation,
games
ITs.
technology courses, all of these, so many things related to IT. And this point for everyone listening today is that if you're a student who is about to go overseas to study, you have the opportunity to choose to study one of these courses. And you're in a much better position than someone who chose their degree last year, because they didn't know that we'd be in this position. But you're now, maybe previously you were going to do international business management, but now you changed to social media and digital marketing. You're in the best position now because you can choose a degree where you know exactly what are going to be the biggest sectors in the next few years. We've never had such clarity, as Prerna pointed out, where we know exactly where the job demand is going to be. It's very clear where it's going to be. Everything we've mentioned also, like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. Yeah. And the best thing is that you've got the opportunity to choose to study one of those subjects where you know that you'll have fantastic job opportunities afterwards. So actually, it's a don't waste being in the position where no other sort of student cohort has ever had such a clear view of where the jobs are going to be in the future.
Thank you very much. Fairly convincing arguments in terms of, though there are a couple of comments also which is negative about friends and families saying there aren't part-time jobs in the UK right now. But I think you all kind of try to explain. Let me focus on the post-COVID or because of COVID, how much of challenges is the overall education system and the education market is facing. With the downturn, does it mean that there are a lot of cost pressures for you all, which means can parents and students expect costs to come down going forward, or you feel no, it will remain like this? I mean, what would be the dynamics of the industry going forward?
I think it really remains to be seen. Educational institutions, we don't, I mean, I can only speak for our organization, but it looks like we're going to have a strong September intake in terms of numbers. So, you know, everything is healthy. Everyone still has their job in our company because we're anticipating having a good intake in September. And even if the September numbers are a bit lower than usual, we'll see an increase in the January numbers. And I think that we probably work in a lucky industry where retail shops, you know, they're working on a weekly schedule. If they're closed for 1 week, then, you know, that's putting a pressure on their business. But in the education industry, we work in a very cyclical way, which is that students come in September and then also some come in January. So we look like actually we're going to be quite lucky. I know I'm making a lot of comparisons between UK and Australia, but Australia has struggled a lot more because their academic calendar is the other way around, and they have their big intake. They have their big intake earlier in the year, and as a result of COVID, their big intake was wiped out, and you know that's been a big pressure on them. However, in the UK, intake is, and it looks like September is going ahead. So I think that the timing of our academic calendar has suited us well, and that's why we're very confident. And no, we don't have any sort of, we're not under any sort of financial pressure at the.
Good. Guha?
I would completely agree with Christopher here that same with Greenwich as well. With us, there has not been any kind of job cuts or anything at all. The university rather does not see a significant number of fall down in numbers at the same point of time. There has been a slight drop in number, but it is not that significant that we say that, oh my God, it's such a huge impact. It is not, because with us, the market, and we are talking about global market, we are not talking about a particular country, but a global intake as well. We have seen a significant, like it's a small drop down in numbers when we talk about that. At the same point of time, we see an increased amount of interest coming for January intake. It's not that the suddenly student has stopped thinking. So education is something which should not stop being thought of. So with this situation of COVID also, when we are saying about impacting the market, it's just a phase. And this is something which is going to impact hugely with any business, not only education business. It's a phase for every business when we talk about when the student, it's an education for a student, but for us, it's a jobs. right? So it equally impact us as a business sector here. But I do not find that in education industry categorically, whereas there are few other companies I know who have been impacted largely. But for us, it has not been that of an impact which has stopped us. And we don't see our fees going down, unfortunately. Even when we are talking about online thing, we are just not saying that we are doing the entire online course or something. We're just saying we are flexible. Like we are adjusting. If you want, we can do this, but it's your choice. It will still remain the same course, same cost. It's your choice to not come. That's up to you. But no, there's no changes in that for sure. I completely on board with Christopher.
I just add one more thing to that, which is that, you know, throughout this situation, we've always tried to keep a long-term perspective and, you know, not think, especially from, you know, a strategic and a planning sense, trying not to think in, you know, 1 year cycles, but to think longer term, to think in 5-year cycles. And it is a fact that pandemics do not last forever. It will go, one day it will not be here anymore. And, you know, we can't forget about that. We have to plan for the long term. This is a temporary situation. And the other thing is that actually, when we step back and take that longer term view, we remember that actually international education in the UK is in the middle of a huge boom because of the re-addition of the poststudy visa and the increase in demand from so many countries around the world, in particular in South Asia. The boom in demand for UK degrees and international education as a result of study visa, that hasn't disappeared. So the demand is still on the rise. It's just that there's been a little bit of turbulence in how students can actually get to the UK. But I think if we think longer term, it's an extremely positive time because we're in this situation where the government is so clearly in support of bringing more international students. I think the ex-education minister, who's actually the brother of the Joe Johnson, you could even be increasing the post-study work visa from 2 years to 4 years, and should be a number of students from South Asia. So I think that the pandemic aside, we're in a fantastic boom and at the beginning of a real in international education in the UK.
Agreed. I'm just looking from a parent's perspective with globally pay cuts across, outlook revival of economy is going to take much longer. I'm talking about affordability for parents. I know you haven't cut your fees. There is still demand, but I'm looking going forward. Is there a consideration that everywhere pay cuts and the financing for education also is under a lot of stress? How the universities are?
Look, we understand where you're coming from, you know, and we understand the impact. There are a lot of parents who are running their own business, you know. They have, like, especially small business scale parents, they have been hugely impacted financially. And we kind of understand on those grounds. However, keeping in mind with education loan in picture one. Secondly, you have to understand UK is one unique destination of studies where we are offering you master's degree with internship based courses as well, where you get a proper salary, you know. And this is a very unique thing. This is not something which you will get doing in US or Australia or New Zealand, where you're doing a master's degree and you within a part of your course you get an internship, which is a paid internship kind of thing. So this is one portion of it where you get a proper return on investment, which is there, which a lot of middle class family also does it, you know. Today we are talking about pandemic situation where a filthy businessman or a person who has been having a certain business level has gone down in their profits. But at the same point of time, previously also people who are not that rich but taking an education loan and sending children abroad was equally there. At the same point of time, when they have been sending their children more to UK in compared to other countries because of this. One of the reason why we are giving a very industrial based courses which make them more employed. So it's very important for parents to understand, to look at the long term goal on the return on investment whatever they are making. Also with the GIR coming in place, with graduate immigration route coming, staying back in UK for 2 more years without any additional investment or anything, rather earning back more, higher possibilities to get a sponsorship from an employer, and the vision is more high to earn more. And if the student is very focused, and I said UK is welcoming, jobs are there, and if you're very clear with your thoughts, you will invest, you will earn back whatever invested by your parents. Again, it's a personal choice as well, but education loan are there in every country to support financially where the parents are not able to do it. I think that would be my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think it's so important to emphasize that, you know, education is not like a sandwich or something where you buy it and then you consume it and then it's done. Fundamentally, there should always be a return on investment, and it comes back to what we were saying just previously, where there's never been a better time for you to be strategic about the degree course you choose in order to get a strong return on investment. And I'm still extremely confident that there'll be a strong return on investment, especially if you choose to study one of these courses that's in a booming industry at the moment. I know there's questions about, you know, the economy and businesses, but technology companies are doing better than they have ever done previously. And anyone who's studying something in these areas is probably going to get one of the best returns on investment that they ever could. Even if the price of the degree is the same, your opportunity to get a fantastic return on investment is higher now than it was previously.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. There's just a quick question that has come in. What scholarships do you offer in the current situation? Is there a sort of universities looking at stepping up some scholarships, some relief? I mean, I'm just still within this whole dynamic situation. Universities considering?
We do not have any additional scholarship. We do have a normal academic, you know, we do have international scholarship, which is normally there. But yeah, that's the maximum. But there are a lot of other private scholarships, I would say, which the student can always look at. Every government have their own scholarship. I think with the COVID situation, government has come up with their additional external scholarships as well. Students can always look at the external scholarships. But unfortunately, with us, we do not have a huge amount of scholarship with the current situation.
Okay. We have sort of exceeded our allotted 1 hour, but I just want to also ask the registered participants to sort of type in their questions, where these two experts are not available, you know, on a daily basis. So let's make use of them to clarify any questions or any issues. Just want to know what would be your kind of key message to both parents and students. I know you shared lots of insights, lots of new perspectives were provided. For someone who has sort of already made up their mind, what would be your advice in the, just mind you that Sri Lanka borders are yet to be open for civilian flights or civilian travel. I think UK has still included Sri Lanka as to not permitted list as well. So that's another challenge. VFS, as you said, there was spoken about a visa situation. These are still, things might improve in the next few weeks. Let's hope so. But bearing those, what would be your advice to parents and students who are keen to come to UK to pursue their studies?
We can start with Christopher for that.
Yes, yeah.
My key message would be positive and keep a long-term perspective about all of this. I know you mentioned currently the border is closed in Sri Lanka, but 6 months ago, everything was normal. So 6 months from now, probably everything will be normal again. And, you know, it's a very normal human thing to think that the future is going to be like the present. But it turns out the future is always very, very different from the present. So my message would be positive and keep a long-term perspective, plan for the long term. You know, borders usually are open, so they will be open again. So plan for borders to be open, don't plan for borders to be closed.
I would just like to say, guys, that please ensure, I understand everyone is watching news, but please ensure that you guys are updated with the news, what is coming up. Because, you know, for example, I'll say about India, people are really making an hype of 20 lakh cases. So we are literally saying that there are 200,000 cases of COVID in India, but out of 200,000 cases, it's only, you know, around 5 lakh cases which are active. It's hardly 5 lakh cases which are active. So when we're talking about active cases, keep an eye on how many cases are active and how are not active, how many are not active. So it's important to ensure that the news which you are reading and understand all the aspects of the news. UK is welcoming you, is open, is, you know, literally opening their arms to welcome all the students with the great graduate immigration route and picture, with the 2-year post-study visa. We are excited to welcome our students this year. There is a lot to discover in UK. Education is a primary area where you can really excel, and don't stop thinking about education. It's a very important segment for you. If not this intake, it's fine. You might be skeptical, but do plan it for the January intake. We do have a Jan-Feb intake. Most of the universities have a Jan-February intake. So do not keep a full stop or a halt to your education thoughts. Keep your plans alive, be positive, because this, with the COVID situation, one thing is with the pandemic has created a lot of negativity in and around, and it's very important to keep yourself active, keep yourself positive, and ensure that you have all the positive vibes, and get chance to read everything completely, prepare yourself well, and stay home and stay safe. Thank you so much, guys, for attending the session today.
Yeah, thank you. Very
Thank you.
inspiring.
Thank you.
Very inspiring sum up from both Chris and Prerna. Thank you very much for being very frank, I would say. Also passionate about education in the first place, because I think you managed to sort of dispel some of the fears, cleared a lot of ambiguity in the minds of parents and students. So I like to thank International University Hub, which provides transparent and seamless solutions for anyone who is interested in pursuing education abroad, for creating this platform to clear misconceptions and fears among parents and students. And I'm glad to hear that UK is welcoming, getting ready to welcome international students. It's a big market for Sri Lankan students, and it's positive news. I hope Sri Lanka will sort of get its act together in terms of opening borders and resuming flights as usual, and that, as everyone is be positive as well. So thank you very much, Prerna, and for your time and your insights. And thank you very much to the participants as well for making it very interactive. And I'm sure International University Hub will do another webinar, hopefully, depending on the situation, both here and abroad. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.